What's going on, y'all? What's going on?
All right, what's good?
Good. So my name is Jalen, or y'all could call me Jawabu, as you see on the screen. Um,
All right, what's good?
and this is my co-founder for the book club, Unlocked, right here, my boy Zach.
All right, what's good, y'all? What's good? I got man.
So me and Zach are both UGA grads. I graduated African American Studies, and Zach graduated with a. Me and Zach are both. Can you hear me, Zach?
Graduated with it went mute for a second.
Oh, you got the YouTube video pulled up.
I got you. No, I got you. I see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah. It basically I was on another tab. I can hear you twice basically, but my bad.
Word. So I'm gonna give people a couple of minutes to get in here because right now it's just me and you. So
Okay.
let's see if we get some viewers.
You want?
We got 4 people in here. I mean, let's get started for real. All right. So you hear me well, Zach?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yeah. So I came up with the idea for Unlocked because tapping into my African heritage and my Black heritage and my culture has been something that's been life changing and enlightening for me. I originally got into it because I was having feelings about race and, not really knowing how to convey those feelings. So that's largely one of the reasons why I studied African American history in general and race relations. So this is something that really empowered me, and it's something I really want to bring to other people to help empower other people through the same vehicles. Maybe Zach, you can speak to why this was something that you wanted to do.
So for me personally, Unlocked is basically I got to a point where I realized a lot of people haven't really been reading, and I realized how reading changed my entire life, my perspective and whatnot. And I've always been someone that tried to, like, if I love something, I try to dissect it. I try to learn as much as I can about it. And the more I learned about myself and through reading and whatnot, and the more I started to find myself and love my people, then I kind of wanted others to have that same experience and realize how important it is, to actually learn about yourself through reading.
That's real. And then, so it's me, Zach, and then we also have 2 other people that founded the book club with us. Our friend Mary and our friend Kenny. And Mary's actually in here. She's about to pop in real quick, and hopefully she can give us her reason why this is something that she wanted to do. Hey,
Hi.
Mary. Hey.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We hear
So,
you.
Okay.
you
Hey
just give us a
guys.
quick rundown.
You said what?
If you could just give us a quick rundown.
Yes. So reading and education has always been important to me. It's like actually, um, it's kind of like in our house we had a punishment, if you will, and it wasn't anything physical. It was like you had to read the dictionary front to back, cover to cover, and that was kind of like our punishment. So I got into reading, say like from third grade on, and just learning about the world. I would have been a kid who wanted to major in everything in college because I was just interested in everything, and that's kind of why I was so honored when I was reached out to be a part of this because I definitely, you know, believe and understand that just reading and learning more about our world helps us deal with it and helps us deal with ourselves because it kind of puts words and ideas and pictures to the thoughts that we sometimes can't untangle or can't, or the perspectives that we don't have just yet because we just haven't understood it. So that's definitely what unlock means to me.
Word. All right, so I'm gonna take us through this short presentation we have that tells you a little bit more about Unlocked as a group and what we want to do with our book club. if you're interested in the book club, if you check in our link tree, we have a link for our official registration form. So you pop in there, you take a short survey, it has your email. And with that, we can reach out to you and send you important information about the club. So let's get started. So to really tell you about unlock, we got to go down and dive into like what it means for something to be unlocked. And the base of that is at the word unlock. So the definition of unlock is to open with a key, so most times, a lot of times, to free from restraints, to disclose, so like to uncover information that wasn't previously known. Some important context that we can use this word in, I think, is like to unleash, to loosen the restraints, and then things that we're trying to fight against by embodying the word unlock is control, restraint, taming, governance. Does any of this speak to you, Zach or Mary?
I'll let Mary go first. Oh, she's muted. Okay, well, for me personally, I would have to say the undo part, at least for me personally, just from our indoctrination as, you know, students here, and I guess the university system of Georgia and whatnot. So it doesn't necessarily teach you the full truth. So I'd like to undo and the indoctrination that was given to me through education, you know, public education.
That's real from a kid, man.
Right.
So here's a quote that I thought was like, that I thought really stood out. It says, people can afford not to educate. Powerful people cannot afford to educate the people that they oppress, because once you are truly educated, you will not ask for power, you will take it. So power, Black power specifically, is something that this club is in pursuance of. So go ahead, bro.
Hopefully people don't misconstrue that when you say that. Like, not in the sense of Black supremacy, just Black power. There's a difference, you know. Like, power doesn't necessarily mean you have to like go ahead and dominate other people and whatnot. It's just cultivating a power to be able to, you know, the ability to
basic things that we need to do as humans, as a community.
Right.
So Unlock the Book Club is like Unlocked, but it has a very specific focus. So our vision is to develop a network of revolutionary progressive thinkers who want to find solutions to problems specific to the Pan-African diaspora. A lot of people may not know what Pan-Africanism is in general. And that's something I want to bring to y'all in this meeting. As you can see behind Zach right there, he got the Pan-African flag with a big Africa in the background. And right here in the background, you got the Pan-African flag of the video. But Pan-Africanism is a movement amongst Black people across the world. So it's something that Black people can unify under, that connects us to like a greater sense of community. Whereas African American, you can only tap in with a certain spectrum of issues. But here, with being under the spectrum of the Pan-Africanism, we relate to a lot more communities of color across the globe. So one way that we want to tackle or reach our vision is to unleash the knowledge that we feel like is trapped in books, because books aren't something that people necessarily go to a lot of times.
Right. I know for me personally, one of my favorite quotes is, and I say this with them all the time, is if you want to hide something from a Black man, hide it in a book. So that seems to be something that we act like we're allergic to do, you know, to actually pick up a book. So.
You got a little story about that coming later, don't you?
Oh, right, true. Not even like real story, a true story too.
So in order to have real conversations about race and race in America, you got to educate yourself about race. You got to be able to bring some type of articulated message to the table. So we want to uncover and understand the oppressive conditions that plague Black communities. Um, Without really diving in and studying stuff, you're not going to really know what you're facing and how to combat that. So by arming people with knowledge, we want to like find these problems within our communities that people have addressed before. It's not like, you know, there haven't been individuals that have written in length about these subjects.
Right.
It's really just exploring those things and figuring out what works for us and what we can do as average everyday people to make a change.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure with most of the recent events, a lot of people are realizing like, yo, we've done this before, or we've seen this, or like, why does this keep happening? Or when I say recent events, and I'm talking about police brutality and the usage of media to, I guess, distort the public's image of protesting and whatnot, and how like basically, like he said, it's not like anything that we've been discussing hasn't been discussed before. It's just that most of the in-depth versions of these conversations are in books. You know, like there's a lot of answers, like everybody's looking for an answer or a solution, but it's wild because a lot of those answers are in books.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And even if people do have the answers in books, the perspective may be a little different from what we need now, but we can take and pull what we need to, you know, inspire a new revolution. So here's an important quote from Malcolm X. It says, of all our studies, history is the best qualified to reward our research. And when you see that you've got problems, all you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who have problems that are similar to yours. And once you see how they get theirs straight, then you know how to get yours straight. So by studying other revolutionary thinkers, revolutionary groups, progressive thinkers, we can kind of embody those things and shape ourselves into locomotives of change. All right, I'm gonna hit this next slide. So here's something that I thought would be an interesting conversation to have is woke a joke? And y'all might not know what I mean by that. And if anybody wants to join in the conversation, hit a little comment and I'll post a link in where y'all can join into the show and, you know, have some type of conversation around this. But
Right.
it's woke a joke. So basically, people who are woke are people who are like socially conscious, politically conscious of themselves and their history. And a lot of times I think people take people who are like quote unquote woke to be like a joke. But is that really true? So something as an organization that I personally want to tackle is this stigma of reading or being knowledgeable, like not being like cool, or like people might, you know, if you get to start talking about something, people are like, man, I don't want to hear that woke stuff. Like real knowledge and real solutions are like lame, I would say. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Zach?
For me personally, I just see it a lot on Twitter. Usually people are using like Umar Johnson memes or GIFs or whatever, and those be hilarious, to be honest with you. It's kind of to a point where if anything is pro-black, then it started to be something that you could make fun of. Or say that again.
Like Hotep.
Yeah. For instance, like a lot of people don't actually know that Hotep literally just means peace. Like it's just like for instance, if you were under the Islamic faith and you say Assalamu alaikum, then it's just another translation. You're just saying Hotep instead of Assalamu alaikum. Or when you say bye to somebody, you're like, yo, it's all right, bye, like peace. So it's the same thing, just a different word.
That's real. And people really disrespect the word Hotep in many ways with how they like laugh about it.
She said, LOL, this is so true. They'll call you a conspiracy. Right. Right, bro. Like it's they'll go quick to saying conspiracy theories, but it's like, no, bro. There's like, if you just read, there's something to this. It's not like we just trying to be super pro black or whatever. Like it's just real.
100%.
Shout out to J Organics.
So down here in the corner, we got a quote by Maya Angelou. So the more you know of your history, the more liberated you are. So throughout this, we kind of want to bring out the importance of history because I don't know. Growing up, I learned world history, and it wasn't really within this spectrum of African American or from the perspective of like Africans or African Americans. So it was nothing I really gravitated to. But once I started researching people that were influential that looked like me,
Exactly.
and I started hearing great, amazing stories, I became empowered.
They look like you, they talk like you, they speak like you. What they say resonates with you.
Yeah, and honestly, it was life changing, and I just want to bring that to other people.
Yeah, you go through school and you learn about Beowulf, but you don't learn anything about your people. They teach Susan.
Why would I want to read Beowulf?
Exactly. Now, I'm trying to figure out what's up with Shaka Zulu. like, I'm trying to figure out what's up with my people.
Yeah, for real. Give me a little piece on Fred Hampton or something.
No, facts. Oh, shout out to Fred, man. Same. That's my birthday twin.
Big shout out. He inspired a lot of this presentation, whether he knows it or not. Well, I'm sure. Well, who knows? So I want to give y'all a couple tips. A lot of people may not be avid readers or people that are used to like picking up a book, or, we really want to open this up to people who don't read. So here are a couple of tips that me and Zach feel like can help you become that avid reader. So borrowing time from something less important. So I try to slide out some time every day where I can read and not be distracted by anything else. Where you can also see down there, point number 4, we got turning your phone on do not disturb, which I do a lot of times, but I'll carve out times in my day for myself to read. And I don't know, sometimes you can be so quick to pick up your phone to scroll up and down social media.
Automatically.
Sit your phone down and just pull out a book and read for like, it could even be 5 minutes, But how do you go about doing that for yourself, Zach?
Personally, I just know that I use audiobooks a lot.
Okay.
Fun fact, I hit book number 70 this weekend. Yeah, and a lot of people always ask me, like, how do I read so much? And I tell them, like, I don't really listen to music anymore. If I'm in my car, I'm listening to an audiobook, or if I'm at the gym, I'm listening to an audiobook. Like I'm doing something that's stimulating my mind. So I borrowed that time to actually use it to enhance my intellect. Most people, they spend time watching TV, and I'm like, well, I could be reading instead of watching TV. Or like that's why audiobooks help out so much, because I get to do other things while I'm actually still technically reading. And there's actually studies out there for people that don't think that like listening to audiobooks help as much as actually reading the physical book. Like it still gets into your brain. Like it's still some benefits to audiobooks as well as just reading the physical book.
Word. So since we're on the topic of audiobooks, what do you have like a certain service that you use that you could recommend to people?
Yeah. So we use this audiobook called Scribd. It's SCRIBD. You can go on Audible, you can go on, I think, the App Store, right, or Google Play Store, whatever you have on your phone or whatever, and download that. Like if you don't want Audible, because Audible you have to pay like money, and then you got to actually buy the book again. Whereas Scribd is kind of like a Netflix of audiobooks. So it's like it'll have a full catalog of books on there, and you may have a book that you wanted to read for a minute on there, and it'll be gone. It'll be on there for like, if it's a really, really popular book, usually it's there all the time. But if it's a new book, then it seems like they kind of test it and then take it off and then throw it back on and test it and whatnot. But most of the books most people recommend you can find on that app. And then it's just like Netflix. It's $10 a month.
Word. And then I've also seen on Scribd, like right now I have a 2-month free trial, but you can find a lot of PDFs for books on Scribd as well. A lot of PDFs that I can't find other places on the internet. So
Right.
I would also really recommend Scribd for finding books. So this is your guy right here, Zach, Carter G. Woodson. So I'm gonna let you hit this quote up right here.
All right, so Carter G. Woodson, he's the author of Miseducation of the Negro, written in 1933. Amazing book. Probably going to touch on that one day. This quote right here says, "Those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished, have accomplished, lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history." So, what does that mean to you, bro?
It really pointed to what I was talking about earlier, is, you know, hearing stories about people that look like me, people that have gone through the same things that I've gone through personally in life, and how they've overcome. And but especially about, if we're talking about, let's talk about like I don't want to say prehistoric, but times of antiquity. We're talking about Kemet or Egypt and Black civilizations that were you know, like empires before civilizations in Europe were even a thing. It's like, through this miseducation and this mislearning of history, like, what am I really missing in life?
Right.
And a lot of what that quote draws to me.
It's like, if you don't know your true past, how can you move forward? Right? You don't know where to start from. You don't know where you left off at. It's kind of like, for instance, if you lose your memory today, and your memory keeps everything that you actually had as like tools to thrive throughout life so far. However old you are, that's 20 plus years of memory, of tools to actually help you through life. So if you have no memory of your past at all, like you just have instant amnesia, how do you know how to move forward? You got to go all the way back to learn every single tool that you had just to get you where you are now, and then progress forward. So it's kind of the same thing.
Word, I feel that. Mary, did you have anything you want to add in? I see you just joined back. We'll see. We'll keep going. All right. So just to help people find books, because I mean, when I first started reading, I saw a whole bunch of books that I wanted, and I just didn't know where to get it. So as a club, we're trying to build a directory of Black-owned bookstores, local, for right now, local to Atlanta or the greater Atlanta area. So anywhere in Metro Atlanta, we're trying to create a directory for people to actually go and support Black businesses when we're purchasing these books. And audiobooks, which can be a great source, which Zach alluded to earlier. But also, if you do some research online, it can be really easy to find ebooks. Like, I'm not too sure about legalities, but if you type enough words in Google, you should be able to find a lot of stuff. And then just basically using your local libraries. I think people underestimate that. Colleges are like part of the public library system. And then just libraries in y'all's communities, I would direct people to.
If y'all see like 3B right there, that one also gives you a lot of access just in case. If y'all don't have the, I guess, access to go order the book in time or whatever, LibGen and ZBooks help out a lot.
Yeah, and we'll have some more info about that a little later. The next slide. So here is the kind of story that Zach had that alludes to just the importance of books and the importance of books to Black people specifically.
All right, so this was actually a real story that was told to me recently by someone. I cannot remember who it was that told me this. However, it is a real live story. Basically, there was an old man that he really didn't keep his money in banks like that. He put his money in books. So he ended up getting robbed at one point. And the thing is, the people that robbed him took things, but they never touched his books. So at the end of the day, somebody asked him he was thankful that they never even touched the books, because that's where his actual wealth was. That's where his money was. Whereas like everything else that they took could be replaced. So that's why we have this quote right here where it says hidden in plain sight. Like these guys actually came in there to take somebody's wealth for themselves. However, they never actually picked up a book. And this is a real story too, by the way. Like it's, no, they didn't even go in the books to get the knowledge, to get the wealth. However, that is also like a big metaphor that we discussed beforehand, where it's like people nowadays, again, talking about, we don't pick up our books or anything. So like if they would have opened up a book, they would have had a wealth of money, but a lot of us are missing out on a wealth of knowledge. But just in the aspect of how people actually came in to rob him, it was a reflection of the outside society, where it's like they must have had a need to want to take from somebody else. However, it's like whenever you have a knowledgeable or a well-educated, well-educated society, I know some studies show the crime rates actually go down. So it's kind of like if people actually just opened the book, then they would have already had that wealth in their hands.
Definitely potential there. I think for me, it alludes to a lot of times, like when I want to know how to do something, I feel like a lot of times people can be complacent where you could really like, there's probably a book on how to do anything in life.
Exactly.
If you really just go out and search for the answers.
Exactly.
Reading isn't one thing. Reading isn't is lazy. Like if you read, you're gonna find answers. It's just like taking that step to like start reading and start looking for those answers. All right. So our first season of our book club, and by season, it's going to be a collection of books around a certain topic that lead to a greater conversation. So our first season of Unlocked will be about mass incarceration and police brutality. And so there will be around 3 to 5 books within each season or each topic group. And each book will read for a period of between 2 weeks and to a month, depending on like the length of the book and the difficulty of the book. On Sundays, we'll meet as a group, probably on Zoom, and we'll have large discussions about the book that we're reading at the time. And then throughout the week, we'll do things like just watching, where we'll get on stream and we'll watch, discussions by authors. We'll watch lectures by professors and historians. So we'll do other small things via YouTube throughout the week. But on Sundays is where we will gather as a larger group and have big discussions. So you can look forward to more information about that. I would say our first meeting for this book will be in 2 weeks, and we will announce the next book on this next slide. But also with this slide, what I wanted to address was, again, the Pan-African flag. And as you can see, the flag is red, black, and green. And these colors are selected for a reason. So the red is the color of the blood that must be shed for redemption and liberty. Black is the color of noble and distinguished race to which we belong. And then green is the color of the vegetation of the motherland. And this is something that was formed with the UNIA by Marcus Garvey. And he is kind of the father of Pan-Africanism. So if you check here in the photo, we don't have Marcus Garvey, but we do have Toni Morrison in the bottom. We have Ta-Nehisi Coates. We have We have Dr. Benjamin, we have Dr. Clark, and we have William Chancellor up there right above Toni Morrison. And then we have Malcolm, Angela, and James Baldwin at the very top left.
All great artists, all great thinkers.
Definitely. And if you don't know who a lot of these people are now, you will by the time you're involved with the club. So the first book that we've selected to read is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And this is a book that I've already read personally, and I think it's a great introduction to the conversation of race in America and police brutality. And you want to give a little short background about the book, Zach? Are you good to do that? Yes.
So if you haven't read this book yet, basically Ta-Nehisi Coates is talking to his son throughout the book. And it starts off with him and his son in the living room, and they're watching, I think, the results of either the George Zimmerman case or Michael Brown case. And it's not to give too much information, but it's from that point he realizes that they still have, no matter what time we're in, we still have a lot of things in common based on our skin and our bodies. And he goes into telling a story about him going to Howard, the Mecca is what they call it, the Mecca. Shout out to Howard U. And it ends. Well, I'm not even going to talk about how it ends. The third, it's only 3 chapters. We picked this book just because, like, again, we don't know everybody's reading stamina. It's a very enticing book. It keeps you captivated. However, it's not very long, so it's not one that's going to, I guess, be too strenuous for anybody that may not have been reading a lot recently. Or may not even have picked up a book since college, high school, or whatever. But this is one that we feel as though we could have a lot of great discussions on because it is still very prevalent today.
Most definitely. And if you don't know, Ta-Nehisi Coates is largely involved in the conversation about reparations in America.
Right.
And for me, this book was one, emotional. It was eye-opening in a way of he describes throughout the book this American dream. And that's something I would really advise readers to pay attention to and really try to find an understanding of what this American dream that Black and white people live in America. And I think he does a great job of illustrating that through words, what that dream is and how that dream works. So this book I know everybody does not have right now. And so what we're going to do is everybody that has signed into the registration form or the interest form and send an email tonight, we'll send out an electronic copy. It'll either be a PDF or EPUB of Between the World and Me. So there's no halt in between when people can read. We just want to make that accessible to y'all.
Right. If you're in Georgia in the Atlanta metro area, there's 2 bookstores that I know of that you may be able to go out and get it. I know both of the owners have said that they've been selling out a lot recently because it seems like during this time, a lot of people are trying to figure out some answers and whatnot. And they are starting to turn towards books. But there's one in Greenbrier Mall called Medu, MEDU. And another one is called the Black Dot Cultural Center. And it's in that, it's right next to, I forgot what this mall is called, but it's in the Lithonia area, Stonecrest Mall. Yeah, so that's where it's near. It's actually one in Stonecrest Mall, a Black-owned bookstore in Stonecrest Mall as well. They have a lot of books in that store as well. So that's 3 Black-owned bookstores that you can check out. If not, I mean, you can always go to Jeff Bezos and go to Amazon maybe and get it.
I'll have it tomorrow.
Yeah, or I mean, check out Barnes and Noble. But again, like Jalen said, we'll send out the PDF as well if y'all don't want to go out.
Yeah, definitely. Then next, we kind of have a short little interview by Ta-Nehisi Coates. But before we do that, I just want to go through a couple things because I know people may or may not drop off. But I just want to remind people to go in our link tree on our Instagram, on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and find the registration form and fill out the short Google form. So that way we can send y'all the ebook. And also feel free to send this link to anybody who you think may be interested. Also, in our link tree, we have a Facebook discussion group. It's a private group, but what you can do is if you're a member of the group book club, we'll accept y'all. And by saying member, I mean signed on the Google form. But if you're a part of that, then we'll accept y'all. And I really encourage y'all to go on there and find accountability partners if you're not used to reading. So just go in there and make a short post like, hey, this is my name. Like, I'm Jalen. I'm looking for somebody to help me be accountable reading. And maybe y'all could set up like a certain time of the day where y'all check in with each other, or y'all could share a couple thoughts. And I just think accountability partners are a really great way for people to like reach next steps in their lives. Like, it's hard to do things alone.
Right.
And then also in that same group, let's say you're reading something, of course, tag us on Instagram, tag us on Twitter if there's something that sparks your interest, if you want to post a quote or your thoughts on something. But you can also have larger discussion in this Facebook discussion group where it basically acts as a forum. So we can go in there, we can have post discussion questions and have larger discussions throughout the week. But I'm going to end with this video of Ta-Nehisi Coates, where he talks a little bit about the book and a little bit about the political state of America. Anything you want to leave off with, Zach?
Yeah, I was going to say, please, if y'all can, follow the Instagram, the Twitter, find the Facebook discussion group. All three platforms we plan on using, and if any of you guys comment, talk, whatever, like, please do. Please be active with us because we will be active with you. I know that like as we get to a point where we start the Zooms and whatnot, and we actually are discussing the books, if anybody has any great conversation words that they put in there, then we actually try to quote you, possibly highlight you on our page or whatever, give you credit for a great intellectual thought. That's our purpose. We're all coming together to generate thoughts towards progression. So please feel free to join in conversation. Like, can't emphasize that enough. Like, everybody's welcome.
Big facts. I think that's all I got. I appreciate everybody who's been here today for coming and dropping in. I think we've had an awesome short discussion here where you kind of got an insight into who we are and what we want to do with this club. Like, we want this something to be it's something that's going to be added to the average person's life. So let's just get into this video. It's pretty short. You couldn't hear that, Zach, could you?
Nah, bro. Like,
So please, his new book, Between the World and Me, explores what it means to be Black in America. He writes it as a letter to his 15-year-old son, and here's a portion for you. Quote, "You are human. You will make mistakes. You will misjudge. You will yell. You will drink too much. You will hang out with people whom you shouldn't. But the price of error is higher for you than it is for your countrymen. And so that America might justify itself, the story of a Black body's destruction, must always begin with his or her error, real or imagined." Ta-Nehisi Coates joins us at the table. Good morning to you.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
I'm really glad you're here. This was my Sunday. I spent reading your book. It's a small but mighty powerful book, I have to say to you.
Thank you.
So you opened it up with your son's reaction to the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson. What was his reaction and what was your response to that?
Well, he stayed up to wait for the verdict. It was very, very important to him. He followed the news. And he's young,
He's
and has
15, yeah.
yes, and has certain expectations. And so when the verdict came down, he left the room and went into his room, and I heard him crying. So I let him cry for quite a bit, and then I went and I talked to him. And I essentially said, as brutal as this sounds, get used to it. get used to it. This is your country, and you have to figure out how to live here.
That is brutal. You said you didn't try to comfort him and say it's going to be okay.
No, our relationship, and this, goes back from the time he's born, has not really been one of where I try to conceal things from. First of all, we live in New York. That's a little difficult to do. But just living as an African American in this country, and knowing, what his life was going to be like. I've always tried to talk to him directly and honestly.
He's 14.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he's 14. He'll be 15 in August. They changed the pub date. It's not your fault. He was going to be 15 when he came out. So.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Toni Morrison, this is what happened, and I find it extraordinary. You wanted, and most of all wanted, and only wanted an endorsement from her. And she wrote.
I think that's something we could talk about right there. For me personally, things like that are stuff I'll never forget throughout my lifetime. Like seeing George Zimmerman not be indicted, like seeing other, murders or black people just getting loose. That's something I'll never forget. I don't know if do you remember the Ferguson riots? Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah. Like that was only 5 years ago. So again, like when we were talking, obviously people that's watching don't know, but like we were saying the other day, like it seems like it's getting shorter and shorter time periods between we having to keep repeating this stuff. So it's like it's a good thing that he didn't, at least in my opinion, that he didn't tell us something like, yo, everything's gonna be okay. Nah, like be real with him and tell him how the world is, so he's not living in some fantasy world and when he may or may not be in a situation that is similar to Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown or Ahmaud Arbery or George Floyd or whoever. Like then you're not unprepared in a sense, and it's kind of hard to prepare for those moments in the first place. So it's kind of like, why would you give somebody a sentence that's not necessarily true? Like, hey, it's gonna be okay. Like, nah, bro. Like, nah, we need to talk about this.
Though, I mean, because these dynamics of race in America, I didn't understand at 8 or 10 years old.
Right.
And I somewhat didn't understand until like I was basically a grown adult. So it's really hard to have those conversations with kids, I would say.
I feel like you probably did have some type of understanding. You may not have the words to articulate it all, but I'm pretty sure you did because, I mean, I feel like a lot of us realize these things very early on. Like it's just social norms, like how you act around a police officer or how you act around certain people. And for me, I know like middle school, you start reading these books, like you start reading about history and you realize like, oh shoot, they done did this to some kid named Emmett Till. Like they did this back then. So it's like we're in the same situation, just a different time period.
Yep. And so when you were a kid, when was the first time you felt like you realized race?
As soon as I left private school, like as soon as I got right into a public school, so first grade, because I used to be like, yo, hey mom, I'm about to go hang out with the brown kid over there, not realizing, like the brown, like I'm just thinking brown, I'm not thinking black.
Yeah.
And get to private school and I realized then I'm in public school, then I was like one black kid in entire class. Then I started looking around, also I'm like, okay. Now I'm in a different area. Like this ain't like my private school. So yeah, I think
how were you when you think that happened?
That was like 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty. I think around the same time for me, I can remember asking my mom like why me and my mom were brown and my dad was like yellow. Or I might have said my dad was white. So I was like, Mom, my dad's not white. He's a black man. But I was like, Mom, why are we brown and dad's white? And then she kind of had it explained to me like, nah, dad's black too. So maybe I did have some type of understanding of race, but that's like the earliest thing I can remember.
Right. I mean, as soon as you turn on the TV, I think you see it. Like I was talking to a friend recently and I was telling him how media made me think I wasn't gonna live past 8th grade. So like I think as once society starts hitting you, you start seeing it. Okay, we got a comment. We have Deja Bryant. Did I say that right, bro? I think that might be your friend.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. You want to read her comment, or you want me to?
I don't even see it, dog.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah.
She said, it's almost innate. Living in Europe at a young age, race really stood out. Being the only quote unquote brown child in a class at 6 years old stand out, especially during Black History. It does. In facts. Knowing about race is almost innate. Exactly. Like it's she hit it at the same point, like 5, 6 years old. Like that's you see it. Like,
Yeah. It's around that time where you can't like ignore it.
no, you start realizing Arthur's friend, like on like if you're watching PBS, Arthur's friend don't look like him. Or like you see this stuff. It's just there. These conversations are needed. So a book like his is needed. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna keep going with the vid.
Okay.
Wrote back to the publisher, I've been wondering who might fill the intellectual void that plagued me after James Baldwin died. Marston had written clearly, it is Ta-Nehisi Coates. Baldwin died 28 years ago. Jackson forwarded the note to Coates, that being a publisher, who sent back a one-word email, man. My point is they're putting very heavy responsibility on you.
It doesn't feel particularly heavy. My job is to go out and write at the end of the day. I would be writing the same thing where as I once was sitting in my basement alone, sending it out to my blog where only my dad read every day. Or if I was so fortunate enough to be sitting here with you guys on CBS and, talking about the
write
book.
what you know and what you feel.
Yeah, there's not much more you can do. You know what I mean? It really, really isn't. And so I take that, as a great honor. As an admirer of Baldwin, as an admirer, a huge admirer of Toni Morrison. But no, I mean, I'm going to write what I'm going to write, and what happens after that is really not up to me.
There's what you write, and there's where you come from. You come from West Baltimore, site of the riots following the death of Freddie Gray. Right. Baltimore just fired their police chief last week. Have things changed in Baltimore?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't lived in Baltimore in over 20 years, and so it would probably be wrong of me to sit up here and try to.
But you say the Baltimore you grew up in is not that different from the one you're seeing now on television.
Well, that's fairly obvious. I can say that much. I think, when people, see, on a screen a CVS burning down or something like that, Baltimore strikes them as, violence has somehow increased or something like that. But Baltimore, as I knew it then, was pretty violent.
But you also talk about that you and your son have two different realities in the world.
Right.
And you said that so many times when you see these kids that are called thugs who are loud and rude,
right,
that really it is a defense mechanism and they're afraid.
Right. And oftentimes, to be clear, they aren't actually being loud and rude. They're being like, ordinary kids are, but they're perceived a certain way. Mm-hmm. And in the instance, and I think this is what you're referring to in the book, where you see African-American males in particular, but females also, walking through a neighborhood, displaying a kind of bravado. What people don't understand is that that's a culture, that's a methodology, that's a way of walking through the world to protect you in an environment that's very, very violent. It's very, very, and you have to send signals to make sure you're not victimized.
So where are we? The president said, as he made comments about the controversy in urban America between community and police, at the same time, he said, we've made remarkable progress. Where are we?
We have made progress. But we haven't made nearly enough progress for me to feel, safe in my body and for my son to feel safe in his body.
And what's holding back that progress?
Well, I think it's us. And I think
who's us?
I think it's us as Americans. I think it's the country. So
I think that's a very interesting conversation to have right there. Like, what's stopping racial progress in America? Is it the average American that's stopping that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I was recently, again, I'm reading Black Power by Kwame Ture currently, and he talked about how a lot of people thought it was like the middle class. He talked about how W.E.B. Du Bois was trying to get the middle class Black people. He thought that was our answer and everything to, I guess, changing or leading us forward and whatnot. However, just like what he's saying, when he says us, I think it's an involvement of everybody. I don't think enough. Again, going back to the purpose of this whole book club is to actually start attaining some knowledge of this stuff. Like a lot of people, it's really more so like the uneducated leading the uneducated. Where sometimes when we have questions about black on black crime, you have somebody that may not have read or may not have the same information on the rhetoric of black on black crime, then they may sit there and point to that and say, like, we need to focus on this. Whereas somebody that's actually read on it and is more, I don't want to say educated, but more aware of the usage of the rhetoric of black on black crime, knowing that there's no such thing, then they may be able to help them, or they may be able to actually help us progress. So it really is on us, and it's just a lot of lost trying to lead the lost. Like, it's blind trying to lead the blind. Like, a lot of people that we think are our leaders really aren't our leaders, because they have not had enough information to become a true leader at the end of the day.
All right, I feel that, and I think I really feel what you're saying, but personally, I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it a different way. So I was thinking, like, yeah, average people do have an influence, but it's really these larger structures and institutions that really disenfranchise people. So it's really it's a combination of both. Right. I think I've personally been underplaying the effect that an average American can have on that. But like you were saying, these are conversations that we want to open up, and these type of discussions are ones that we want to start having with our group members.
Right.
So no perspective is right, no perspective is wrong, no perspective is better than the other one. We're just trying to progress. And I like what my boy he thinks thrice just said about the ISIS papers.
Right. Like in that book, I don't know if anybody else in the chat knows about it, but in that book, like, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she's kind of explaining the why we have racism, not the what it is or where or who or anything like, but it's just the why, like her scientific theory behind why we have this. I actually was recently watching a debate with her and this old doctor named Dr. Shockley, and she wrote hers in, I think, 1967 or 69, her Cress theory, and he came out in 1974. And I don't know if people have a history of eugenics and how that was used to make us, and when I say us, I'm talking about us descendants of Africa, make us look like we're less than or inferior. He coined the term dysgenics, and this is where he was basically trying to figure out a way to word, like, he's basically saying that white people were more superior. He's looking at statistics, except he did not have context behind his statistics. You know, he never mentioned, like, why the black child in class was still not succeeding as well as the white child outside. He didn't talk about how that area wasn't getting the same funding as the more white affluent areas. Like, he then talked about
he wasn't taking racism into account at all.
Exactly. He again, going back to the term intersectionality that was coined by one of our great feminist leaders. Like, intersectionality was something that, say that again, bro.
Isn't it Kimberly Crenshaw?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kimberly Crenshaw, right. So he wasn't taking that context into play. He was just saying, "Oh yeah, look at these statistics. We're just better." So when he coined the term dysgenics, he was basically trying to get people to voluntarily kind of sterilize themselves in a way where if y'all can, maybe we'll watch it on one of these Wednesdays or whatever.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. It sounds interesting. Yeah,
it's only a 30-minute video. We can discuss it as we go through. Let us know if y'all are actually willing to check that out. Because Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, in that debate, she actually handles herself very well. She handles herself, and it's just in the sense of, like, she understands he doesn't understand what he's actually doing. Like, he doesn't have the knowledge to realize that he's not actually taking the context into play on what he's saying. Like, he's just somebody that he wasn't even a scientist, bro. Like, that's how much privilege they gave this man. Like, again, white male privilege. He ended up on national TV. Like, he's not even a scientist, and this theory got him his 15 minutes of fame, bro. So that's
But yeah, that sounds interesting. We could really watch that in this same format. We can have people join in on the show where you can comment live, or you could be in the comments watching it with us, and we can, sit down and think things and talk things out.
Right.
But let's get through this.
One of the things I'm trying to reckon with in this book is the fact that we were on a great moral era, if we'll call it that. The taking of land from one group of people and the enslaving of another group of people to work that land. We have never actually, in any sort of forthright way, grappled with that and gotten over that. And until we, do, we'll continue to probably have books like that.
How do we get over it?
Well, I think, we need a series of, steps of investigations. I wrote, not to, pick up something I wrote a while ago, but I wrote a piece called The Case for Reparations, last year that very much spelled that out.
You also write something in the book that I thought was interesting. Most Black parents, myself included, always say to their kids, you have to work twice as hard, you have to be twice as good to be successful. And you said when people do that, that drives you crazy because that sends the wrong message.
Yeah, I think you talk about putting weight on people's shoulders. I mean, these are children. And I think that can't be lost. So that was not something I understand the intent of it. I understand what people are trying to do. People are very worried about their kids, but these are children. And I think part of what happens, in addition to the very real racism you confront out in the world, is that your childhood is robbed of you, because people tell you at age 10 that you have to act like you're 30 years old.
You end the book with the death of your friend, Prince Jones, who was killed by a police officer. He was unarmed, 25 years old, killed by a police officer.
Yeah, and that's
had
really
a big impact on you.
Right. No, well, the genesis of this book is 15 years ago, where my friend from Howard University, Prince Jones, was killed after he was mistaken for someone else within 200 yards of his fiance's home. Left a young daughter behind. Left a mother, Mabel Jones, who was gracious enough to talk to me for this book behind, and it's just stayed with me, and I think it'll stay with me till the day I die.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Toni Morrison said required reading. To Charlie's point, what does that mean to you?
Must be true.
Yeah, to get Toni Morrison saying like you are the person she's been waiting for since James Baldwin, like that's some big talk right there.
Yeah, those big words.
Yeah.
I think it's really another thing to pay attention to when you're reading is it's something to keep in your mind when you're reading that story of Prince Jones. I'm pretty sure the officer that killed Prince Jones was a Black officer, if I remember it correctly.
Right. Which it's interesting. Like that's again for those I feel like most people in this chat are pretty knowledgeable on this stuff. I don't feel like, or open to at least.
And at this point, you kind of gotta be with our current political state,
Right. I think that point just points out like, hey, this ain't just a Black versus white thing. Nah, it's like a systemic thing. It's don't actually like, for instance, how Atlanta, I think it was the AJC, maybe, or one of these news outlets, one of these media outlets, recently tried to post how most of the officers in APD are Black, thinking that would deter how people thought about the protesting and whatnot. It's like, no, that's really not it. That's not it. It's
the whole organization. It's everything y'all got built from the foundation up. It's how y'all operate. It's not just the color of the people that are committing the crimes. It's the crime.
Exactly. Class struggle as well. I think that's why race will DNA because of things like that. Exactly. Exactly, bro. For Deja Ann's He Thinks Thrice, it's like that rhetoric is what causes that ignorant rhetoric that is what causes racism to continue. And she said it was the AJ. Yeah, I thought it was the AJC. And I like how Thrice commented about the class struggle. Like a lot of things that we have in our issues, like it's not even just a race struggle, it's a class struggle. Like
it's
a lot of
LA being poor and Black and etc.
That's why when MLK started pushing that poor people's campaign, and that's when it switched.
Cut it off for him.
Right.
And once you try to make it a larger movement, it kind of changes in the political eye.
Right. Once you start unlocking that mind of these people out here that are asleep, bro.
What are you here to do, man?
Yeah.
we made it to the end. I think we're right at the 60-minute mark. I feel like this is a good place for us to conclude. Everybody who is not signed up on the registration form, go check out our link tree on our social media accounts, and you can register. And by the end of the night tonight, you'll have a copy of Between the World and Me, either EPUB or PDF, in your email. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. We'll have another meeting about the end of this book in 2 weeks. So 2 Sundays from now, we'll post about it on social media. And like I said, try to join the discussion group and get a little active in there, because I think we can really have some good conversations.
Yeah. Again, please follow the Twitter, Instagram, subscribe to this account right here.
Drop a like on this video if you're a revolutionary thinker. Drop a like.
Exactly. Because again, we are trying to work on progression here. Every single one of y'all, great words. Very excited to get into it. Oh, shout out to you, Mike. Shout out to you, Agbor. Again, like we are all trying to work on progression with one another. So conversation is welcome. So like we are very welcoming this. Again, if anybody is interested in having a conversation before the 2-week mark, we plan on, again, Wednesday. Like if this Wednesday, somebody let us, like, tweet us, DM on Facebook, whatever you want to do, bro. Let us know, because we can hop on here easily on one of these Wednesdays and chop it up about the book if you have any thoughts.
Or something that's, not the book, but still in, the same realm of discussion. We could hop on. If there's a video that's relevant, we could hop on, react to the video. We could have a conversation. We can do a number of type of things with this platform, but we just want it to be progressive and powerful.
Exactly. And it could be literally anything recent that pops up. Just hit us up. As long as it has to do with us in the diaspora, let's link.
Let's chop it up.
Yeah.
Big facts. All right, y'all. So I appreciate y'all for coming in. You'll hear more about us. Follow us on social media to keep updated, and we'll be back next time. All right. Peace out.
Peace.